These are not flaws. They are human patterns. Men have weaknesses. Women have weaknesses. But the man who understands emotional patterns controls emotional outcomes. This video is about power through awareness. If you are emotional, desperate, or insecure, this will not help you. But if you are calm and disciplined, this will change how women react to you. Today, I'm going to show you 11 feminine weaknesses, not to manipulate, not to hurt, but to understand them clearly. Because once you see these patterns, you can never unsee them. Comment, I choose clearly. Number 1, craves validation. Attention is the oxygen she constantly seeks, and most men suffocate themselves trying to supply it. Validation is not a cute desire, it is a deep craving for reassurance that she is desired, chosen, superior to her competition, and safe from abandonment. And when a man does not understand this, he becomes an unlimited dispenser of praise, reacting instantly to every photo, every emotional fluctuation, every subtle, "Are we okay?" thinking responsiveness proves loyalty, while in reality, it lowers his perceived value because what is always available becomes expected, and what is expected becomes invisible. And this is where frustration begins, because effort increases while attraction decreases, and confusion grows as she gradually responds slower, invests less, and unconsciously places him in the category of emotional provider rather than desired prize. Validation given without standards becomes charity, and charity rarely inspires respect. Many men live in a constant loop of over-approval, sending long affirmations, constant reassurance, paragraphs of comfort whenever insecurity surfaces, believing that by calming her doubts, they secure her affection. Yet the opposite occurs because dependence on his reassurance grows while respect declines. And soon she checks in not out of desire, but out of habit, not to connect, but to confirm that he remains available. Discipline changes this dynamic entirely. Emotional restraint creates weight. Speaking less forces attention toward each word. Approval becomes earned rather than automatic. Stoic practice begins here by controlling impulse. When the urge arises to instantly compliment or soothe, pause and observe the impulse rather than obeying it. Breathe, wait, evaluate whether her behavior aligns with standards, and respond intentionally rather than reflexively. Standards must be written, not imagined. Define what truly deserves praise: loyalty, effort, consistency, growth, accountability. Refuse to reward mood swings, passive aggression, or attention-seeking posts designed to provoke jealousy. When validation is attached to values, she begins to associate his approval with achievement rather than entitlement. This shift alters power. Now she invests to earn acknowledgement. Respect rises because the source of reassurance is selective. A man grounded in purpose does not scramble to fix every insecurity thrown his direction. He listens without panic. He acknowledges without worship. He supports without surrendering dignity. That balance communicates stability. Stability attracts more than constant reassurance ever will. Over time, she notices the difference. She notices the space between messages, the measured responses, the calm tone that neither chases nor withdraws in fear. That composure creates curiosity. Curiosity fuels attachment. The moment validation stops being automatic, attention becomes concentrated. Every word now carries gravity. Attraction thrives where approval is not guaranteed, but possible. Control over validation is control over perception. That is exactly why the Stoic relationship blueprint exists, a guide built for men who are tired of losing power by giving validation without standards and ready to live by timeless, disciplined principles that shift their entire presence immediately. It breaks down step by step how to master approval, control impulse, set boundaries, and build an identity so grounded that no one can shake it. and it is now available in audiobook form, so it can be absorbed while walking, training, commuting, or building your body and mind at the same time. Imagine strengthening discipline during a morning jog while learning how to command respect without raising your voice, or rewiring your habits during a quiet evening walk while others remain stuck repeating the same mistakes. This is not temporary motivation, it is permanent access to knowledge that becomes yours forever the moment you claim it. The link is in the comments, and once it is yours, no one can take this level of clarity, power, and self-mastery away from you. Number 2. Fears, uncertainty. Predictability quietly destroys desire long before rejection ever appears. When routine becomes mechanical and every action can be anticipated, emotional stimulation fades because certainty removes anticipation, and anticipation is the engine of attraction. A man who answers every call immediately, explains every delay and shares every thought, removes mystery from the equation and unknowingly signals that his life revolves around her schedule, her moods, her pace. And this submission to predictability shifts the balance without confrontation, because safety becomes complacency, and complacency becomes boredom. Uncertainty does not mean manipulation, it means autonomy. A structured life naturally creates delayed responses because priorities exist beyond constant communication. Work sessions, training, reading, business planning, personal reflection, these are not tactics but foundations. When she texts and the reply comes later because focus is elsewhere, intrigue begins to form because she recognizes that attention must compete with purpose. That competition increases value. Many men sabotage this by fabricating distance rather than building substance, disappearing without direction and calling it strategy, but emptiness behind distance is transparent and quickly detected. Real uncertainty is born from ambition. A man deeply engaged in growth cannot be emotionally predictable because his schedule is driven by mission, not reaction. Discipline over impulse remains essential. Resist the reflex to instantly clarify every silence or explain every absence. Silence caused by productivity carries authority. The mind fills gaps with imagination, and imagination intensifies interest. She wonders what occupies his time, what commands his energy, what makes him unavailable at moments. This curiosity builds attachment. Stoic application appears again through focus on controllables, manage schedule, goals, daily habits, and detach from the need to constantly update someone else about every detail. Write weekly objectives. Break them into daily tasks. Commit to completion before social engagement. Improvement produces confidence, and confidence alters communication rhythm naturally. When life is structured, responses become intentional rather than reactive. Attraction increases because energy is not centered around one person, but around purpose. Certainty in self allows unpredictability in interaction. That combination creates respect. Number 3. Tests. Emotional strength. Challenges appear in subtle forms designed to measure composure, and most men collapse under the weight of simple provocations. Emotional tests arrive disguised as jokes, comparisons, mild accusations, or playful jealousy, and they are not random. They assess stability, gauge insecurity, and evaluate whether emotional reactions can be triggered easily. When a man defends aggressively or explains excessively, he reveals fear of losing approval, and that fear shifts authority instantly because emotional volatility signals weakness in self-trust. Calmness under pressure reverses this pattern. When confronted with a remark such as, "You seem distant lately," delivered with undertones of accusation, reacting with panic validates the challenge. But maintaining measured tone and brief response communicates grounded identity that does not depend on constant affirmation. Emotional strength develops through internal discipline, not external performance. Practice observing emotions before responding, Notice rising tension, acknowledge it internally, and allow it to pass before speaking. This pause changes outcomes dramatically. Stoic principles emphasize mastery over reaction. Events themselves are neutral, while interpretations create disturbance. When interpretation is controlled, reaction stabilizes. She senses this composure and adjusts behavior accordingly because emotional manipulation requires reaction to function. Remove reaction and the attempt loses effectiveness. Many men unknowingly reward emotional volatility by engaging intensely every time drama appears, creating cycles of argument and reconciliation that feel passionate but erode respect. Breaking this cycle requires refusing to participate in unnecessary escalation. Short responses, steady tone, consistent boundaries, no long debates to prove innocence. Confidence requires no courtroom defense. Over time, she recognizes that emotional spikes fail to produce desired reactions, and the frequency of tests decreases. Stability becomes attractive because it represents safety and leadership. A man rooted in self-control cannot be easily shaken, and that steadiness commands respect more powerfully than any declaration of strength ever could. Number 4. Responds to scarcity. Unlimited access silently destroys perceived value faster than open disrespect ever could. Women respond to scarcity whether they admit it or not, because human psychology assigns importance to what is limited and gradually ignores what is constantly present, and many men unknowingly sabotage themselves by making their time endlessly available, answering every call, adjusting every schedule, canceling personal plans to accommodate her mood, believing sacrifice builds devotion, while in reality, it conditions her to expect priority without earning it. And over time, that expectation reshapes the dynamic so that his presence becomes background noise instead of something anticipated. When access has no cost, appreciation declines. When time is guarded, interest rises. A disciplined man structures his day around purpose first and relationship second, not because he lacks care, but because he understands that self-respect is demonstrated through boundaries on availability. Consider how differently someone treats a fully booked professional compared to someone waiting by the phone. Urgency increases around scarcity. The same principle applies here. Stoic discipline demands detachment from the urge to constantly prove devotion through availability. Impulse says respond instantly to maintain connection. Control says complete priorities first. Scarcity must be genuine, not theatrical absence, because fabricated distance is quickly exposed. Genuine scarcity comes from ambition, fitness, skill development, business focus, intellectual growth, and meaningful friendships. When a woman recognizes that his time competes with purpose, not laziness, she instinctively values each interaction more. Many men complain that attention fades over months, yet they also confess that they reduce personal growth after entering relationships, slowly shrinking their world until she becomes the center of it. And once she senses that dependency, attraction declines because pressure replaces excitement. Protecting time reverses this cycle. Schedule workouts, commit to projects, track progress weekly, say no without apology when priorities clash. Observe how respect increases when availability is no longer automatic. Scarcity is not cruelty, it is clarity about what matters. Men who guard their time communicate that they guard their standards. Standards create structure. Structure creates admiration. Number 5. Competes for attention. Desire intensifies in environments where value is visibly recognized by others. Women are highly sensitive to social cues, particularly signals that indicate other people respect, admire, or seek the attention of a man, and this sensitivity influences behavior more than verbal reassurance ever could, because perceived competition elevates importance in her mind without direct confrontation. Many men operate in isolation, investing all social energy into one person and unintentionally removing any external proof of desirability. Then confusion arises when effort declines, because exclusivity without earned status reduces urgency. Social proof amplifies attraction. This does not require jealousy games or manipulative flirting. It requires genuine development that attracts attention organically. Strong posture, disciplined physique, clean style, focused ambition, calm speech, and confident presence naturally draw interest. When other women engage casually, smile, or show subtle curiosity, the signal registers immediately and shifts internal perception, because value validated by the group carries more weight than self-promotion. Stoic discipline applies here through commitment to self-improvement, independent of external approval. Training the body consistently builds visible results. Expanding skills builds competence. Participating in communities builds recognition. Recognition builds social leverage. Instead of pleading for attention, become someone who receives it without asking. Many men admit that when they gain progress in fitness or career, interaction changes noticeably. Respect grows, communication shifts, effort increases. That transformation is not coincidence, it is a reaction to elevated status. Complaining about attention imbalance achieves nothing. Upgrading presence changes everything. Focus on measurable growth. Track strength gains. Improve income streams. Learn communication skills. Dress intentionally. Speak less and listen more in groups. Over time, social gravity increases. When she senses that others value him, complacency decreases. Competition awakens instinct. Number 6. Attaches to emotional distance. Emotional oversharing. At the beginning of interaction often stems from desire to bond quickly, yet rapid vulnerability without earned trust reduces mystery and compresses the natural progression of connection, and when everything is revealed early, curiosity fades because nothing remains to discover. Many men mistake intensity for depth, sharing personal struggles, insecurities, and future plans within days, hoping transparency accelerates intimacy. But accelerated intimacy frequently diminishes tension and transforms attraction into comfort prematurely. Emotional pacing creates sustainability. Gradual revelation keeps engagement alive. Consider the difference between a story that unfolds chapter by chapter and one that exposes every twist immediately. Anticipation fuels investment. Stoic practice strengthens restraint in this area by teaching separation between impulse and action. The urge to confess everything often arises from anxiety about losing connection, yet controlled disclosure demonstrates self-assurance. Share selectively. Offer insight into values and ambitions while preserving private layers until consistency is demonstrated. Mystery is not deception, it is disciplined pacing. Women attach more deeply when they invest effort into understanding a man's complexity rather than receiving all information without effort. Many relationships lose intensity because emotional saturation happens too quickly. Daily constant messaging, hours of confessional conversation, instant declarations of seriousness, and soon boredom replaces excitement. Slowing the tempo maintains intrigue. Focus conversations on ideas, growth experiences, shared challenges, and purpose rather than constant emotional reassurance. When emotional distance is balanced with warmth, attraction stabilizes. Preserve depth for those who prove reliability. Attachment grows where discovery continues. Number 7. Seeks emotional leadership. Women look toward a man's posture in life to measure stability, not just financially but mentally and emotionally, and when hesitation dominates his choices, uncertainty spreads through the interaction, because leadership is not about control but about grounded clarity that signals safety, strength, and forward movement. Constant questions such as, "Where should we go? What do you prefer? What do you think we should do?" may appear considerate, yet repeated passivity transfers responsibility and slowly shifts respect downward because guidance is expected from the one who claims confidence. Emotional leadership begins internally before it appears externally. Discipline in daily structure reflects in relational dynamics. When a man wakes with purpose, executes a plan, trains his body, improves skills, and handles challenges without panic, decisiveness becomes natural rather than forced. Consider how different energy feels when interacting with someone who speaks with certainty compared to someone who hesitates constantly. Certainty reduces anxiety in others. Women respond to grounded presence because it lowers their internal doubts about direction. Many men struggle here because fear of displeasing overrides clarity of choice, and this fear creates excessive accommodation that eventually breeds quiet resentment on both sides. The solution lies in strengthening decision-making muscles daily. Choose workout routines and commit without debate. Plan weekly schedules with precision. Set financial targets and track progress. Make small decisions quickly and stand by them. When leadership becomes habit, relational leadership follows effortlessly. Stoic discipline emphasizes focusing only on controllable actions. A man cannot control her reaction to a decision, but he can control the integrity of the decision itself. Speak calmly, propose clearly, accept feedback without surrendering authority. Emotional leadership does not shout, it remains composed under pressure. If disagreement arises, maintain steady tone and stand by reasoned choices without escalating conflict. Over time, she aligns with that stability because uncertainty cannot attach to decisiveness. Respect grows where clarity lives. Number 8. Reacts to withdrawal. Women sometimes reduce communication, shift tone, or decrease enthusiasm without explanation. And this shift often triggers panic responses that sabotage dignity because emotional attachment without self-control produces chasing, over-explaining, and increased effort in moments where restraint is required. Excessive pursuit during withdrawal communicates dependence, and dependence erodes attraction quickly. Withdrawal tests composure. Instead of reacting with urgency, match energy calmly. Reduced effort from her should not inspire dramatic confrontation or desperate escalation, but measured adjustment. When communication slows, focus intensifies elsewhere. Productivity becomes refuge rather than distraction. Many men admit that the moment they stop pursuing aggressively and redirect attention toward fitness, career, or personal growth, dynamics begin to rebalance because absence of desperation restores intrigue. Stoic application here demands emotional containment. Observe discomfort without acting on it impulsively. Write down thoughts rather than sending them. Channel frustration into progress. Train harder, study longer, build stronger routines. Distance loses power when self-worth is not attached to constant validation. If she returns with renewed effort, respond proportionally without resentment. If distance continues, dignity remains intact because self-respect is preserved. The controversial truth remains that attraction weakens when a man tolerates inconsistency without consequence. Consequence does not mean aggression, it means reduced access and increased focus elsewhere. Over time, she recognizes that attention is not guaranteed and recalibrates behavior accordingly. Emotional control during withdrawal separates those who maintain leverage from those who lose it. Number 9. Overthinks silence. Measured quietness communicates authority more effectively than endless explanation. Women often interpret excessive verbal reassurance as insecurity because continuous elaboration suggests fear of misunderstanding, and many men fall into the trap of defending every minor issue with lengthy responses that dilute strength and create unnecessary emotional complexity. Brevity demonstrates confidence. Silence, used intentionally rather than resentfully, forces reflection and shifts conversational balance. When confronted with emotional statements designed to provoke reaction, a short, composed reply followed by disengagement removes fuel from escalation. Consider how tension rises when one side remains calm and controlled while the other expects dramatic response. Power shifts toward the composed individual. Stoic discipline teaches evaluation before expression. Not every thought requires articulation. Not every accusation deserves defense. Choosing when to speak and when to withhold shapes perception profoundly. Many men struggle because discomfort with unresolved tension pushes them to fill gaps with words, yet unresolved tension often deepens intrigue. Practicing restraint in communication builds internal strength. Before replying to emotionally charged messages, pause and assess whether response improves the situation or simply relieves anxiety. If relief is the only outcome, silence is superior. Over time, she learns that emotional manipulation fails to trigger predictable reactions. Conversation becomes grounded rather than chaotic. Quiet confidence unsettles instability. Authority grows from controlled expression. Number 10. Respects boundaries. Clear boundaries instantly separate those who are tolerated from those who are respected. Women test limits not always with dramatic actions, but with subtle behaviors such as cancelling plans last minute, arriving late without apology, dismissing concerns, flirting openly to provoke reaction, or speaking with slight disrespect disguised as humor. And each small moment becomes a silent negotiation of standards, because whatever is tolerated becomes accepted as the baseline. Many men ignore early signs in fear of appearing controlling or insecure, and by staying quiet, they slowly train her to undervalue their time, effort, and presence. Boundaries are not emotional speeches. They are calm statements backed by consistent action. When she cancels repeatedly, reduce availability. When disrespect appears, address it once with steady tone and concise words, then withdraw engagement if behavior repeats. Over-explaining boundaries weakens them. Repetition enforces them. Stoic discipline strengthens this area by anchoring identity in self-respect rather than external approval. Discomfort in setting limits arises from fear of losing connection. Yet connection maintained without respect becomes slow erosion of dignity. Writing non-negotiables clarifies action. Punctuality, honesty, loyalty, consistent communication, mutual effort. When these are violated and consequences follow without drama, the dynamic shifts immediately because certainty replaces flexibility around standards. Many men complain about being taken for granted while simultaneously ignoring their own values to avoid confrontation, and that contradiction guarantees continued disrespect. Calm enforcement changes perception. Authority grows when actions align with principles. If she adjusts behavior, respect increases. If she refuses, removal becomes necessary because standards mean nothing without enforcement. Boundaries define value. Value attracts seriousness. Seriousness sustains attraction. Number 11. Fears losing high-value men. True leverage exists only when identity stands independent of any single relationship. Women instinctively recognize when a man's world revolves around them because dependence reveals itself through constant availability, emotional overinvestment, and fear-driven decisions. And once that dependence is sensed, urgency fades since security is guaranteed without effort. However, when a man cultivates purpose beyond romance, career ambition, disciplined health, intellectual growth, social contribution, his presence transforms from optional to rare, and rarity generates priority. High value is not arrogance or wealth alone. It is self-sufficiency combined with ambition and emotional steadiness. Rising early, training consistently, managing finances responsibly, pursuing mastery in chosen fields, maintaining strong friendships, and protecting personal time all communicate abundance rather than scarcity. Stoic principles reinforce detachment from outcomes, focus on daily habits, release fixation on approval, measure success by progress rather than attention. When internal fulfillment grows, desperation dissolves naturally. Conversations become lighter yet more grounded. Decisions become firm yet calm. Attraction intensifies because independence eliminates pressure. Many men confess that once they shift attention towards self-development instead of constant validation, behavior around them changes noticeably. Interest increases, effort rises, respect deepens. The controversial truth remains that desire follows strength, not neediness. If she senses that life continues upward with or without her, seriousness increases. If she senses that everything collapses without her presence, control transfers entirely to her side. Building high value requires daily action, structured routines, measurable goals, financial discipline, physical training, skill acquisition, and emotional composure under stress. Over months, identity transforms. Confidence becomes visible without boasting. Stability becomes attractive without effort. At that point, control is no longer strategy, but natural consequence of growth. Society benefits from distracted, emotionally reactive men who chase approval and never question the rules. And that is exactly why the Stoic relationship blueprint for men exists, filled with timeless Stoic principles that rebuild discipline, standards, and unshakable self-control from the ground up. This is the knowledge most never receive, the framework that stops years of confusion, wasted effort, and silent frustration, and it is now available in audiobook form, so growth continues while walking, training, driving, or moving through your day, sharpening your edge instead of scrolling aimlessly. The moment it is yours, it stays yours, permanent access to clarity that no mood swing, breakup, or outside opinion can take away, and the link is waiting in the comments. If you are ready to rise above the noise and reclaim control, comment "Unshakable" like this video, and subscribe so more men find these truths before they lose years they can never get back.